I'm Dennis Anderson, and here's what's coming up on Almanac North. As COVID cases surge in Minnesota, Governor Tim Walz has ordered bars, restaurants, and other places where people gather closed for 4 weeks. We will talk with a local health official. Second Harvest Northern Lakes Food Bank has seen an increase in need with the pandemic and the holiday season. And the Salvation Army is hoping to rescue Christmas for those in need with its annual Red Kettle fundraising campaign. These stories and more coming up on Almanac North. Hello once again and welcome to Almanac North. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Dennis Anderson. Julie is off this week as we continue to alternate hosting the program during the pandemic. Our show was recorded on Thursday afternoon. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz ordered bars and restaurants closed to indoor service for 4 weeks, beginning at midnight Friday. It's the latest effort to halt the spiking number of COVID cases in the state. We'll have more on the governor's order and the pandemic following these headlines. The Minnesota Department of Health is increasing locations where people can be tested for COVID at no cost. A nasal swab site has been set up at the Hibbing Armory, and the Duluth saliva testing location has expanded operations to 7 days a week. Minnesotans can also order an at-home saliva test for no charge from the Department of Health website. A Minnesota Pollution Control Agency decision to issue a key permit for the proposed Enbridge Line 3 pipeline is receiving pushback. 12 of the 17 members of an MPCA advisory group resigned in protest of this decision this week. In a letter to the commissioner, members of the Environmental Justice Advisory Group said they were resigning because of the MPCA's, quote, war on black and brown people, end quote. Minnesota Power announced this week that the region's first solar power battery storage system will be built in Grand Rapids. The 2-megawatt solar array and 1-megawatt storage battery is a joint effort of Minnesota Power, the Grand Rapids PUC, Itasca Clean Energy, and U.S. Solar. Construction site preparation has already begun near the Grand Rapids Itasca County Airport. And now returning to our top story, the governor's order this week to close bars, restaurants, gyms, and indoor entertainment venues is the very latest effort to get the pandemic under control. In addition, social gatherings with anyone from outside your household are prohibited. Now, these measures may seem extreme, but health officials say COVID cases are reaching crisis level and the prohibitions are warranted. And so, joining us now with the very latest is Amy Westbrook, Public Health Division Director with St. Louis County. Welcome, Amy. Thank you so very much for being here. 9 months of COVID, and now all of a sudden the holiday season. I think a lot of people know this could get dicey.
Yeah, we are concerned about the holidays. You know, people love to gather during the holidays. Everyone does, joining with family, extended family and friends. It's just not the right time to do that now. So the governor's orders do prohibit social gatherings with anyone outside of your immediate family, your household.
We can certainly see that the pandemic has worsened in the last few weeks, late summer going into fall. What are the governor's new regulations?
Right. Well, the governor issued additional orders last night, closing, basically targeting social gathering places. So restaurants, bars, gyms, other places where people gather. Retail is open, but places that especially 18 to 35-year-olds tend to gather, that is where we're seeing the biggest increase in cases across Minnesota.
Amy, are there civil penalties for people who don't comply?
Well, this isn't about enforcement. It's really about trying to get people to do the right thing. It's not, we want compliance, we don't want enforcement. So we're hoping that everybody takes these orders seriously and does stay home for the Thanksgiving holiday and really reconsiders their plans, unfortunately. We all want to gather with family and friends, of course.
Is there any indication as to perhaps when again we can start to socialize like maybe a lot of people have been doing? And will it take an inoculation before that can happen, do you think?
That's a good question. These orders are for 4 weeks, which is 2 incubation periods for COVID-19 infection. Hopefully that will give us enough pause in community transmission to really make an impact. Mm-hmm. That's what we're hoping. And so until mid-December, we'll at least have these orders in place.
A new public service announcement called the COVID Ref has come out. Let's take a look at it and we can talk about it.
A legal formation.
What's the problem, COVID Ref?
This year, not gathering is the new gathering.
Yep, this setup is just for our immediate household.
What about that spot?
That's for Grandma. She's joining us virtually this year.
There is no penalty. It's only halftime in this pandemic. Let's win this thing.
Hi, COVID Ref.
So is this going to be hitting the airwaves soon, or is it already on the air?
Yeah, it's already on the air, and it'll run for sure through the end of the year.
Is this being seen in Minnesota particularly? This is made for Minnesota?
Yeah, throughout the northeast part of Minnesota, into Wisconsin even.
How'd you come up with this idea, or who came up with it, I guess?
Well, it was a partnership. We worked with Creative Arcade and our communications officer, and then some people on our staff. It was just a fun idea that really, we know that there's a lot of people who don't want, none of us want to do these sort of prevention measures, but they're really important to do. And so it's just a fun way to portray what we really should be doing, all of us.
What are some of the restrictions the governor says we must comply with?
Well, the governor does prohibit social gatherings, so anyone outside of a household should not be gathering. It's highly advised not to travel, and the settings that are closed are bars, restaurants, social places of social gathering, social events are canceled. So those are all places where we want people to take a pause from, interacting with others.
This could affect wedding plans, certainly funerals, things of this nature where people normally gather?
Right. It's unfortunate, certainly, that social events are just really not allowed right now. Ceremonies are, but social gatherings and social events, such as weddings, are not allowed.
What are symptoms of COVID? It seems like people have all sorts of different symptoms depending on who you happen to be.
Sure. Well, there's a lot of different symptoms for COVID. It is a respiratory illness, so it's very similar to a lot of other respiratory illnesses. As we move into the fall and winter, we know that respiratory bugs are out there in general, so it's difficult to tell the difference because they're very similar. But COVID-19 can present a lot of different ways: fever, sore throat, cough, shortness of breath, fatigue. All those symptoms are part of how it presents in people.
Amy, a lot of people are asking, how long will it be before a vaccine truly is available?
Yeah, that's a good question. We hope soon. It looks like there's some good promises on the horizon. We are working with the Minnesota Department of Health and partners in talking about how we'll prepare for receiving the vaccine and distributing the vaccine. It takes a whole system, so it really is a big undertaking to get a vaccine of that.
Can you talk to us a little bit how COVID is affecting local hospitals?
Sure. Well, our biggest concern is that we don't want our hospital systems to be overrun. We're seeing up to 30% of the hospital capacity be dedicated to COVID patients. That's concerning because we know that other health issues don't stop because of COVID. We did a lot of planning in the fall, or in the spring and summer. The healthcare systems did a lot of planning and really prepared for situations like these. So the space has been expanded. Staffing, certainly, when we look at lots of different places where we have workplaces, we're seeing staffing shortages because people are out for isolation and quarantine, and that's not any different with healthcare. So there's a few issues, when we're talking about hospital capacity.
We see a myriad of face masks. What might make up a good face mask?
Well, to wear a good face mask is to make sure that your nose and mouth are covered, that it fits well on your face so you don't have gaps where air can, be exchanged. And it should be at least 2 layers, preferably 3 of material. And it should fit well on your face so it doesn't slip or fall down.
Well, I really appreciate you being here, Amy. Thanks so very much. You really filled us in on a lot of questions I think people had. So, Amy Westbrook, St. Louis County Health Director, thank you very kindly.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
The Second Harvest Northern Lakes Food Bank has seen an increase in those using their services due to the pandemic, and they expect that number to increase as cases continue. As we head into Thanksgiving and Christmas, food bank officials want the community to know they can provide holiday meals and encourage donations from those able to do so. We spoke with the food bank executive director about preparations for the holidays and how the pandemic has impacted operations.
We try to mobilize turkeys, holiday hams, whatever it takes, whatever families want during the holidays for our region's nonprofit programs, and then again for our own direct service programs. It's going to be a different year. I don't think we're going to be able to gather in the same way or celebrate in the same way. We really want our neighbors, especially this year, to have the same access, the same ability, even if they can't meet with their extended family, to have their small home unit together during the holidays and celebrate with an important meal. So it is really important, I think, again, more this year than ever before. Our food shelf and our mobile food pantry programs are already distributing those types of foods within the communities that we serve. I believe right now we have turkey breast. I know there's plenty of fresh fruits and vegetables. Oftentimes we try to get our hands on those things like the sweet potatoes or the accoutrements that everybody wants. Sometimes we get pies donated. It really just depends. Again, much of the food we're dependent on is donated. So we try to supply whatever we're receiving. But again, when we have the opportunity to purchase, that's when we're going after the turkeys or the hams or, the types of foods that people would want during the holidays. Certainly regionally, we've seen an uptick in use at all of our region's hunger programs. We have seen, I would say probably 7 to 10% more recently. We saw definitely an initial surge back in March, April. It calmed down a little bit during the summer. Again, stimulus funds were available. And then August through now, it's increased. So it's been on the steady increase. I would say, again, probably 7 to 10% more people than last year. And in any one month, we can see 16 to 18,000 people in our region needing food assistance. And since there is no stimulus package right now negotiated, I think families are really feeling the pinch of, not only the holiday season, home heating season, unemployment. We know that there were just some changes, of course, in our states regarding, restaurants or other organizations having to cut back hours. That affects local staff. We're definitely frightened about what's ahead. Again, knowing there's no stimulus package negotiated, we know families are going to be struggling. And again, who knows in the next couple weeks, months, if there's going to be additional closures or again, we're hunkered down a little bit more. we've seen the supply chain really disrupted this year. So, you go to your local retailer right now, you're not seeing a lot of products in excess. And again, we're seeing that surge again of people buying at the consumer level. That leaves less for second harvest and our organizations to rescue, so surplus donated food. So we're going out and have to trying to compete with retailers and others to try to get product for people in need in our region. So that's also a little frightening for us, knowing that we're going into the season of less resources too. So it's hard to know what's going to happen. We did kind of like the change in demand. We saw a surge really in support in the early spring. So March, April, May, people were just very generous, even donating their own stimulus checks. So it was really amazing to see that. By about September, we've seen, I guess we would call it fatigue. People are tired of hearing about COVID. Some people feel like I've already responded. So in September, we started to see kind of a decline in donations and a softening amongst our donors. We're now in probably the busiest and most important season for us, the holiday fundraising season. Normally, we raise between 45 and 50% of our income for the year, our public support income, during this time. So seeing that softening makes us a little nervous. We had an instance where one of our staff members, Gary, was out in the parking lot, and this woman came in. It was for our nutrition assistance program for seniors, and he saw her out in the parking lot, and he thought, it looked like she'd been crying, and he, walked up to her and just said, how are you? And she said, I never thought I would have to be here. And he said, really? And he thought it was because of the weather. He was confused by that. But anyway, she had apparently been crying, and she said, I've been a donor of yours for 20 years, and I never thought I'd have to be there. And Gary said to her, you've helped us for 20 years. Now it's our turn to help you. So he said, welcome to our food bank. And she got assistance, and she's been coming back ever since. And I think people need to know that that's why our programs are here in this region, is to help people get by, whether it's a short-term crisis, whether it's, long-term issue. That's what we're here for. And that's what this food is here for.
And Morris says all of the regional food banks have pivoted to an outdoor distribution model. You can drive right to the food bank without an appointment, register with an ID while in your car, and they will load the food in your trunk or back seat. Well, certainly the holiday season is the most important time of the year for the Salvation Army. It's when they hold their famous Red Kettle fundraiser, and also when they provide the most help for people who are in need. But this year the pandemic has increased demand for their services, and at the same time it has cut into people's ability to help. Joining us with more is Captain Terry Ellison of the Duluth Salvation Army. Welcome, Captain. Thank you very much for being here. Mm-hmm. How has the pandemic increased the need for services you provide through the Salvation Army?
We saw from the beginning of the pandemic back in March an increase in our hot lunch programs Monday through Friday. Not quite a doubling, but we have consistently been serving 100 to 130 lunches every day, and that's just one example.
Did it improve or slow down a little bit during the summer when things maybe weren't quite where they are today?
Not in our hot lunch program. Our food pantry, we did see a slackening off in the summer, but the take and go lunches have been consistently at that high rate.
Now the Red Kettle campaign, of course, is certainly a very important part of what the Salvation Army does. My understanding is you're short of volunteers.
Yes, no surprise. It's almost flip-flop from last year. At this point, we saw about 74% of our first week need for bell ringers met. We're at a 74% need for bell ringers at this point.
How does somebody become a volunteer?
It's very simple. You can just call our office, go to our website at duluthsa.org, call our office and talk to June, and she will walk you through the process. It's a 2-hour commitment, and typically, on average, a person brings in about $60 an hour.
Really? Mm-hmm. How many sites are there for Red Kettles?
There are 17 sites around Duluth during the kettle season. A few more will join us this weekend, but we will have 17 sites. Mm-hmm.
How many years now has the Red Kettle campaign been operational?
Well, as long as the Salvation Army has been in Duluth. The first Red Kettle appeared in San Francisco back in 1891. And, you could dig into the history there if you're a history buff, but that began with just a need to feed people on Christmas Day. And a pot was put down by the docks and asked people to throw their change into it. So.
That's how it started.
That's how it started.
Wow. Now, when you look for volunteers, what do you tell people? How much commitment is needed? You said 2 hours at a time. Can they volunteer more than once?
Absolutely. We actually have at our volunteer appreciation dinner awards going to those who have rung the most hours, brought in the most money. We see a lot of organizations and churches that will step up and fill maybe a whole day slot from 10 to 8. But we do have some folks that they just put hours and hours of their own time bell ringing.
Do you have a goal that you've set for this year?
Yes, our financial goal is $215,000, which is roughly 7 to 10% of our budget, and that was set back in the early days of the pandemic. So now we're at that point where we're trying to see if we're going to actually meet that. Which, if it doesn't come into the kettle, then we are looking at a lot of other ways that we can bring money in that are safe and COVID.
So what are some of the services the Salvation Army provides?
So the money that goes into the kettle, that's just one example of donations. That goes to help in our food program. We have a food pantry, the only medical food pantry in Duluth, emergency assistance, which is help with rent and utilities, and that sort of thing. We also have a housing program, transitional housing, to help people up and out of homelessness. Families, and of course our Rookie Basketball Association and youth programming.
Yeah. If a person needs help and they turn to the Salvation Army, how do they sign up? How do they become somebody that you indeed can give assistance to?
Well, it depends on what exactly they're looking for. Most people walk in the door or call and make an appointment with one of our staff. We are at the table in Duluth with meeting the needs of the homeless. And there's a whole process in place with the coordinated entry system, and that's how we receive names of people that need help with their homelessness.
Some viewers might be asking, is most of the money collected in the Red Kettles, does it stay here in this area?
Absolutely, yes. It all stays right here in Duluth to serve the programs that we have in Duluth, yes.
So there's specific needs through the Red Kettle that venue serves.
Yes.
Now, when you look ahead to the next several weeks, do you find that in past years you've noticed an increase in volunteers, an increase in giving as we get closer to Christmas?
Yes. So we are in the very early, we're in our first week. So it's been very slow, but we're not daunted by that. We've seen, even after some of the news stories out there, people calling up and saying, hey, I saw an ad, or I saw an article, I want to know how I can help bell ring. Where we're seeing a decrease are maybe in our friends that are older, that have done this for years, and because of the pandemic are just nervous to get out there. We do want to assure people that we are taking all the safety precautions needed to be safe at the kettles.
What if not necessarily an individual, but say a group of people, a club, would like to volunteer? Is that permissible?
You know what we advise people to do, we really only want a maximum of 2 people at a kettle, but if a club would like to take part, if they just split out the shifts, took 2-hour shifts or throughout the day, take a whole day at the kettle, and we really help promote that in our own media and social media.
When you look back at the history of the Salvation Army here in Duluth, how old is it?
The Salvation Army has been here for over 125 years.
That long?
1892, yes.
And in all that time, is there any idea at all how many people you have helped?
In all that time?
Yes.
That's a good question. I can just tell you that in the past year, we have served over 60,000 meals to people, over 12,000 nights of safe dwelling space. have no idea how many in,
Okay.
in that number
Sure.
of years, though.
Fill us in exactly where you're located here in town.
So we're located on 27th Avenue West, right where the bridge has gone out in
Yep.
the recent days.
All right. Captain Terry Ellison, Salvation Army Duluth. Thank you, Captain, very much, and all the best as you continue this Red Kettle
Thank
campaign.
you. Thank you very much.
And before we go, we want to leave you with some sweet words from one of the bell ringers that we saw in the video earlier about why she volunteers her time with the Salvation Army.
Hi, I'm Tracity West, and I like bell ringing. I'm just happy because I like helping people, helping kids, and helping older people.
Well, we're out of time, but you can keep up with Almanac North by following us on social media. You'll find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Visit the WDSC website for program updates, upcoming events, and more information about the station. And download the PBS video app for on-demand viewing of your favorite programs. Almanac North will be off for the next 2 weeks due to Thanksgiving and then the WDSC membership drive. Join us for our next show on Friday, December 11th. Thanks to our guests and the crew here in the studio. I'm Dennis Anderson. Stay healthy. Good night, everybody, and be kind.